Hi, and welcome back to Bounce Forward with me, Tiff Hall. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm recording this podcast, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to elders past and present. Shan, welcome to the podcast. I wanted to start off by letting listeners know how we know each other. We worked together on The Biggest Loser, and I still remember my very first day. It was like turning up to the first day of school, not knowing anybody, and you were always so kind and so beautiful and my best little mate. And it was great fun. So how many seasons did you do on The Biggest Loser all up?
11 years, Tiff, 2006 to 2017.
11 years.
11 years. Yeah, it's just gone like that.
Wow.
I can still remember our first meeting too, hun, when we went to the cafe in Manly. Remember we were filming at North Head?
Yes.
And we went to a cafe, we went to Blue Water Cafe in Manly. And I went, mate, you're in for a ride here. And it was
I know, and I was like, no, it'll be fine.
And it was so funny because you and I are so similar in our personalities, but as far as our and our work ethic and stuff, but as far as our programming of education comes from two totally different generations. Right. And I remember, and you're sort of the new school and where the dietitians have been onto you and going, let's have a relationship with food and don't count calories and you will be fine. And you're going, Shannon, no. And I go, listen, mate, if you want results, you have to count calories.
You're going to have to count the calories. And you're going to have to track.
Yeah, and you're all old new school going, but it's so onerous and, you know, I think that as long as you have a moderation of everything, we'll be fine. I'm going, mate, listen, it doesn't work like that.
No, this is a competition. It was a competition, wasn't it? And like a lot of people, because I don't know if you know this, but they're rerunning Biggest Losers families at the moment somewhere.
On Resi.
Because I was at a fitness expo on the weekend. Where is it?
It's on Resi.
Showing?
It's called Resay.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I'm watching it with my kids. I'm watching it with my kids.
Oh, my goodness. It is so popular, Shannon. People are coming up to me everywhere saying, I just saw you eat all that food. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it's a lifetime ago. But when we ate all that food and stuff, you know, and just for people who haven't seen the show, the producers made us eat everything that the contestants ate in a week to see how much weight we'd put on. And, you know, it was pretty full on. And a lot of the questions I'm being asked are about the trainers and whether was it a team environment or was it competitive? Like, what would you say between the trainers?
Oh, ultra competitive. You know, it was always ultra competitive. We're all athletes in our own rights, and we've all come from sporting background where winning is is the only thing. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you've got your taekwondo and I'm a boxer and rugby league player, and then Steve's got his CrossFit.
Yes.
So we've always it was ultra competitive and it was ruthless. And you know, for me it was lucky that I had my little mate in white there because otherwise it would have been a gang up.
Oh my goodness, I know. It was interesting times. And, you know, we did spend a lot of time together. Like, people think that the trainers were separated because it was a competition. We didn't spend time together, but there was a green room and the four of us spent a lot of time together, long filming days, and it was full on. But looking back, Shannon, it's been a while since the show's been on. What were some of the biggest lessons that you learnt from that time?
I think one of the most important things I learnt, Tiff, quite early on was to be very slow in judging people as to the reason of their weight gain. Up until then, you sort of think to yourself, shut your pie hole, don't eat, and you're going to lose weight. With some of the girls there, and when they explained to me the reason for their weight gain. Now, the reason for their weight gain, and I won't name her, but one of the girls in the competition said to me, I know that if I'm walking down the street with three of my girlfriends and I'm the fattest and ugliest person in the group, I'm less likely to be picked on as a target for sexual assault. And I could still feel it, mate. I feel her saying it to me. It still hurts me to see that she was quite young, hun. And people at that age to have that sort of self-defense mechanism put in place. And that was her reason.
Yeah.
The reason she got overweight, became fat was because she's eating too much. But the reason she was eating too much was self-preservation from an environmental exposure. You know what I mean? And what a scary
Yeah.
thing, hon. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that
we were introduced to some full on stuff on that show.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, that was probably one of the things that I learned earliest, and then from that, I really sort of changed my attitude to try and understand how and why people had got to the position that they'd got to, and then go about trying to unlock them mentally, to get the most from them physically, I guess. What about you? What about you? Yeah, what was one of your biggest lessons? I'd love to know.
I think it was around the actual training methods. I was a little bit go hard smash trainer back then. And I know it was a competition and we were limited on time that we got to train them. We had to, you know, really go hard in the times that we had with the contestants. But looking back, I worry about their relationship with exercise, and I probably would have gone a little bit, done things a lot differently in terms of the exercise that I did with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking back.
See, funny thing is, I've got no regrets as to the way I was exercising, and
I was going to ask you
I'd
that.
still do it the same.
Because have you changed any of your diet or exercise since the show ended? Any of your philosophies, any of your training styles, any of that?
Tiff, no, because nothing that I've done or no one else I've seen in this country can surpass the results that we generated.
That you got.
And the results are
counting
calories and expending energy through training. Now, I wouldn't change anything in a weight loss competition than what I did. I have, however, changed the method that I'm training for myself.
Yes.
So at that age, you know, when we were on there, I was sort of 35 to 42, 43, now 50. And my training now is all about mobility and movement and maintaining functionality. So I'm still lifting weights, but I'm lifting weights around a mobility protocol more so. And my entire focus is just maintaining a strong, healthy, athletic body that allows me to do the things that I've always wanted to do with my kids. So probably back when the show was on, it was about big guns and six-pack and that sort of stuff to get the chicks. Mate, I've got to go there. I was there. I still ran.
We ran. Yeah.
Along the beach from your house on Manly Beach, we used to run along there. See, people don't realise that. You know, you and I used to get together in the afternoon after we'd finished and just go for a run together as mates. What great memories,
we'd
man.
love that.
Yeah, it was so good.
It was so beautiful. They were my top runs ever. Yeah, I've changed my training heaps since I've had kids as well. I mean, it was a lot of high intensity back then. I was in my 20s. I could hack it. But now I'm focusing on strength training and building that lean muscle mass, which I really didn't prioritize as much back then. But I need that lean muscle. That's your longevity, right? But you, Shannon, you are the number one weight loss trainer, I think, in the country. In my personal opinion, I've met a lot of trainers. I've worked with many of them globally through different apps and stuff. And I still think you are the number one for weight loss. You got the results, mate.
Yeah, well, we've got the results there, hun. And it's quite a funny time, you know, like I always smile at the irony. You know, I love my sort of wry sense of humour that when we were going through The Biggest Loser, fitness articles were written by fitness experts like us who had the results to do it. Fitness articles are now written by influencers who had a vested interest. An influencer.
Yes.
What the hell is that?
Yeah.
An influencer writes a story that's going to improve their financial well-being and disseminates information to a public that are hungry for a way out and gobble up this information, but done without the knowledge, without the results, without the skills, and without, 34 years experience behind them and the emotional connection that goes with it as well. You know what I mean? Most of them are physically and chemically enhanced, one may say.
Yes.
And it looks great, but it's not real.
It's not real. And talking about that, what would you say was the number one myth or the number one question you always get asked? Like out and about. Like, what's the number one thing that you'd love to just help people
I don't know.
understand?
Yeah, well, I think people still need to come back to the calorie in, calorie out equation. There's no better way to do it. I
Mm-hmm.
go to the shop and buy a
Yeah.
coffee for $5.50. If I give them $6, I get 50 cents change. It's a mathematical equation. What goes in comes out. It's the same with your training. If you put this amount of calories in and you burn this amount of calories, the amount of calories that come out it's basically a finite measure. And if you get your head around it, you can almost calculate it. There's always going to be idiosyncrasies with people's cycles, and people are different, which is one of the most wonderful things about our world. To take away the myth around food, you know what I mean? Like, the new thing is you've got to have a relationship with food, which I find the most amazingly bizarre statement. I have a relationship with you as a mate.
Talk to me about this.
I have a relationship with my wife, different than you and I, of course.
Yeah.
I have...
Yeah.
Stop there. No. I have a relationship with my beautiful kids. But for me, food's something I eat. I don't have a relationship with food. What the hell is a relationship with food? You lie down at night and give your banana a cuddle?
Right. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Some people might.
So you're very scientific. You're very right. Okay. That is helpful, like pulling back the emotion from the food. But people do get very the emotional eating and we saw a lot of that on The Biggest Loser. It's hard for people. You've got an emotional eater. How do you deal with that?
It's so hard. And I think, like we said from the start, Tiff, you've got to go back to the root cause rather than just putting a Band-Aid on. You've got to try and go back to find what the cause of the emotional eating is and what's the attachment there, and then trying to take the attachment away. It's quite funny. I was really excited to ask you about this too. I saw your Ozempic the other day, your Ozempic.
Yes.
The Ozempic. Now,
yes, the oats.
I've had some amazing results with my clients using Ozempic. I've had high
Ozempic,
yes.
the injectable. Wow, talk to me about this.
I've had clients that are high functioning alcoholics with addictive personalities that haven't been able to shift weight for the 2 years that I've been working with them. They take it's semaglutide, which is it's a peptide. So if you want a little bit of scientific insight into the whole thing, semaglutide is a peptide. So semaglutide, which is Ozempic by brand name, it's a generic, is a peptide. So it's not actually a drug. It's not actually a chemical. What a peptide does is upregulate or downregulate your body's own production of different hormones. It's like a chemical lock in your body.
Yeah, right.
So the semaglutide downregulates the production of certain hormones that cause cravings and cause you to be hungry. So in my mind, it's not like taking something like Duramine, which ends in INE, so it's an ine, so it's some type of amphetamine in there. It's just to help regulate or downregulate your body's production of these hormones that cause the cravings. So one of my clients that was drinking too much and eating too much got on the Ozempic. When she drank, it made her feel sick. Not such a bad thing if you're a high-functioning alcoholic.
Yeah,
Stop drinking.
Yeah, right.
At the same time, if she ate the wrong type of foods, the Ozempic didn't allow her to continue to eat because she didn't have the craving to continue on. So it became back to a more physiological fullness than an emotional attachment to the food where you just continue to go on.
And do your clients have to stay on the Ozempic long term then to continue those results?
This is at the moment to hypothesize, Tiff. I'd assume so. Hopefully the work that I'm doing with them will create better habits around food and around alcohol that will allow them to keep their weight under control long term, sans the need for the semaglutide.
Wow.
But I suspect that it's going to be a periodic thing on and off, which comes back to the eternal question: do the contestants that we work with on The Biggest Loser keep their weight off long term? And the answer is no. The answer is no, because we don't, and it's not a failure to us. And I've battled long and hard mentally to realize that I can't save the world. We do give these contestants everything they need to keep their weight and health under control long term. There's no flaw in our system with what we're doing. There's no flaw in calorie counting. That's not why they're losing the weight. The flaw is in the want and the desire to what's like dampen emotional pain or whatever it is with food. Alcoholics, we'll just dampen it. Alcoholics and people that use drugs go to AA and to NA for a lifetime. You don't just go to 2 or 3 AA meetings for 2 or 3 months and get off the demon booze.
Such a good point, Shannon. Yep.
You're in those meetings for a long time.
We think we go on a diet and and
you're going to vacillate.
and it's done. It's not.
So I think if you go on semaglutide for 6 weeks, 8 weeks and lose 10 kilos, which is very, very rational and very reasonable, you come off. Hopefully some of the lessons that you've learned around food you can maintain. You might put 5 kilos back on. You then go, right, I want to take this weight off coming to summer. You go back on the semaglutide for 6 more weeks. You must train and you must eat correctly still on the semaglutide.
Yes, thank you for saying that.
You then come back and you come back to that weight where you're happy. And it's going to vacillate on and off. But as it stands at the moment, the side effects and the negative aspect of the semaglutide is absolutely minimal compared to high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, chronic inflammation, and even worse, a subsidized stomach staple or something like that, which for some people, I'm not against it, but in my mind, a once a week injection that can give the same results is a much less invasive answer to the same question.
But you must train and you must eat well whilst you're on it. That's what you're saying, because it's not a quick fix. You still have to work hard.
And it's going to help you get over those cravings because unfortunately, as I said, we're not all the same. So some people don't have that ability just to have a little bit of food and people go, just a bit of moderation and everything. If you're obese, it doesn't work like that.
No. And that's what people don't understand.
It's like saying to an alcoholic, Tiff, let's just have 2 beers together after work this afternoon and we'll be fine. For me, AAK, I have 2 beers and come home and play with my kids all over. If you're an alcoholic and you've got that desire, you have 2 beers and it's game on, mate. And the same with food for people that are battling weight-related issues.
I've been hit with a lot of criticism over The Biggest Loser since the show ended. And the biggest one was, how could you exercise people and put them in a calorie deficit and try and lose weight so quickly when they're morbidly obese? It's because they're morbidly obese. Like they are, like you said, the risk of type 2 diabetes, the risk of high blood pressure, that's their high risk than actually just training them to get the weight off quickly. Would you agree?
100%. And we know within the next 3 to 5 years that weight-related illness will overtake smoking as the leading cause of preventable death in Australia. So what we're doing is not working, Tiff. What the government's putting out, and everything in moderation, let's have a relationship with food, no, it's not working. We've got to go back, man. We've got to go back to the old school. But we're lucky enough now that we have different tools like the semaglutide and things like that are going to help people. We're just helping them along, man. We've still got our same philosophy. As a trainer with 34 years experience, I've got absolutely no, what's the word? I'm not anxious at all that Ozempic's come out that's going to steal my job and it's going to somehow make me obsolete. Not at all. As a trainer, it's just one of the tools that I now have access to for the appropriate client to get them along. What a wonderful thing, man, if we can help another generation
it's
break.
Just so hard to get.
Yeah, and again, and now our government, in its infinite wisdom, is going to ban semaglutide production locally. What? So we import it from overseas for people and they won't allow us to promote that. Like our standards, Australian standards, are higher than anywhere in the world. It's crazy. It's going to be so hard for people to get. Yet then the government will subsidise a gastric band or something like that. Man, come on.
Gosh, you've blown my mind, Shannon.
Yeah.
Blown my mind. Thanks so much for listening to Bounce Forward, but there's still so much more to unpack, so stay tuned for part 2 coming soon. I love having your company, so please DM me on Instagram at tiffhall_XO and let me know what topics you'd love me to cover. Don't forget to rate and review me on your podcast app. Speak soon. Happy days.